Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so now. Hit the like button, subscribe button, hit that share button, share it with your friends. Do everything that you got to do to make this podcast grow. I absolutely love being able to do this for you guys. So thank you so much for being here and for supporting me. Today, we are going to kind of hit the trifecta. We're going to talk a little bit of football, we're going to talk a little bit of basketball, and we're going to talk a little bit of baseball. The three things that I'm going to talk about specifically today. I'm going to go over my award winners for the MLB. So that means, obviously, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, MVP, and I guess that's probably it. I'd say that's probably good enough to for this video. I'm also going to talk about the NFL free agency kind of deal with the New England Patriots, and obviously the story that just came out regarding their facilities today, and the big kind of interview that Robert Kraft gave either yesterday or the day before. We're going to talk about that. And we are going to talk about the Boston Celtics and their struggles down the stretch of games as they continue to blow big leads and what that means for their playoff chances. So, very heavy, Boston episode today. I do apologize, although I guess the MLB stuff's not really Boston. Boston's not going to be in any of these things that I talk about here. So, we're going to go for it. So we're going to kind of bookend the Boston stuff so that there's a nice big chunk in the middle with the MLB stuff that you guys that are not Boston fans can latch on to. So we are going to start with the New England Patriots. So my thoughts on free agency so far for the New England Patriots is quite frankly indifference. I think it's been nice that we've been able to bring back pretty much all of the important free agents that we had. Obviously, Hunter Henry signed an extension. Michael Onwenu signed an extension. Kyle Duggar was transition tagged. I'd love to see him eventually signed to an extension, but at least we were able to get him for one additional year. So that's pretty nice. Trent Brown was obviously let go. He signed eventually with the Cincinnati Bengals, but we were able to replace him with Chukwuma Okorafor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So certainly I'd say that's a pretty good trade-off there. Okorafor has obviously had a really good, solid career. And I think he's a lot better than what he was given credit for out there in Pittsburgh. He kind of fell out of favor over there for whatever reason. Didn't really seem like it was his play, but, they seemed to prefer other guys over him for whatever reason. But glad we have him now. Kendrick Bourne obviously has re-signed. So there's been quite a few guys that have decided to come back. We also signed Antonio Gibson, who I quite like as a running back. Although, hopefully, his ball security issues do get a little bit better, and I anticipate that they will be a little bit better for this upcoming season, being in the system that he is in, and how much the Patriots have always focused on ball security. And obviously, a few little tiny moves here and there, like Sione Takitaki and a couple of other, like another fringe roster spot for a safety. I don't remember what his name is, but, he's played for the Falcons, played for a couple other teams. So, not a whole lot beyond that. So, nice that we were able to keep the vast majority of the impending free agents that we had. And quite frankly, we either kept all the important ones or replaced them with guys that were better. For instance, Ezekiel Elliott, we replaced him with Antonio Gibson, younger. Kind of is going to be doing the same thing, going to kind of be a third down running back or a suitable replacement if Ramondre Stevenson tends to go down, as he has the last couple of seasons for, a week here, 2 weeks here, whatever the case may be, or if he did have to miss extended time, we have a guy that's a suitable backup. So, not a problem with any of those signings, not a problem with any of those re-signings, but at the same time, none of them particularly excite me. I guess it is nice to have Mike Onwenu and have a good offensive lineman come back for a few more years. I worry that without a whole lot of other help along that line, that it's not going to mean a whole lot, but at the very least, you were able to keep a guy that's pretty important for your offensive line. And hopefully it's going to be more important for your rookie quarterback down the road. Hopefully they draft one this year. That at least seems to be the plan according to Gerard Mayo. So, again, not the happiest in the world. I don't particularly love any of the signings, but I certainly don't hate any of them either. I think that it's nice that everybody's come back, but it does seem like the Patriots have wasted a big opportunity. And so therefore I'm pretty indifferent. I think that we really needed to do a whole lot more, and the offseason is still young. There's still plenty of time. I could be recording this podcast right now, and I could be done, and I'll turn on my phone, and the Patriots traded for Justin Jefferson. Who the heck knows? You just never know what's going to happen. Or we traded for T. Higgins. You just never know what's going to happen there. So we'll see down the road. But right now, I just haven't really loved what they have done. And one of the main reasons why I think the Patriots have missed such a huge opportunity is something that has come out over the last couple of days. Robert Kraft commented on a documentary that came out about the New England Patriots called The Dynasty. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen The Dynasty. I have not watched it. I will be eventually watching it, but I have not seen what it actually does. But what I have heard that it does, according to these reports, is it tends to paint the Patriots in a bit of a bad light. Now, it doesn't seem like the players, the coaches, and the other people who interviewed for this, or at least the majority of the people who interviewed for this, were under the impression that that is how the documentary was going to be. I think that most of those people were probably thinking that it was going to be about the last 21 years, about Bill Belichick's era in New England, about all the Super Bowls, I guess it's been more than 21 years. I guess it's been, 24? So 24 years. The 21 straight wins that they had, and just all the different things. Maybe the nearly undefeated season, whatever the case may be. I think that the majority of players, coaches, everybody, including Robert Kraft, seem to believe that that's what the documentary is going to be about. And it seems to them that it wasn't about that. It seems like it was mostly painted to be negative towards Bill Belichick and to be negative towards the Patriots as an organization. I know Devin McCourty commented saying he felt like he was duped. He felt like he was blindsided, that they only used very select quotes from what he was talking about because he's had very little negative things to say. But the negative things that he did say were kind of spun and taken out of context. And so, I don't really know how to feel about it. I mean, certainly anybody is entitled to make any kind of programming, any kind of artistic venture in whatever way they see fit. Certainly freedom of speech. I fully believe in it. I don't mind that somebody painted a Patriots documentary in a negative light. I really don't mind. Even as a Patriots fan, there have certainly been a lot of bad things that have happened over the last 20-some years. Certainly, Spygate is one of them. Deflategate is another one of them. Just so many reports of guys being worked really, really, that sounds horrible, being worked really, really hard or harder than they would have liked or harder than, other teams or things being so difficult in New England that, no matter how talented you are, you're not going to be able to make it because the expectations are ridiculous. Like all these different rumors and all these different speculations and reports come out. And you just never really know as a fan. So I don't mind a documentary kind of showcasing that side of it. I think actually more people should have the courage to do that. Now, the problem is that you seem to have kind of deceived the people that interviewed for this, which I guess I can kind of understand because maybe if you'd have told everybody, you'd have never gotten anybody to interview in the first place. I don't know. Obviously, I feel like there certainly would have been some people that still would have stepped forward and given their honest opinion about things, but I think that you deceived people. That's probably not the best thing to do, but it is what it is. And what's come out of that now, as I mentioned before, is that there's many, many things that this documentary went into and that a kind of NFL Players Association survey did over the last couple of days that kind of went along with one another. That's really sparked some action from Robert Kraft and the Patriots organization, which I think is great. Long story short, the kind of NFL survey painted the Patriots as the 29th organization out of 31 or out of 32, whatever it is. I don't know how many teams there are in the NFL anymore, apparently. Not good. Obviously, not good at all. Almost dead last. Their weight room was rated absolutely dead last out of all the facilities in the NFL, and it did also come out that the Patriots were one of only 7 teams in the NFL right now that do not provide any sort of daycare for players, coaches, staff members, or anything of the like. So they are one of the last few handful of teams to not have that updated. And, again, I think some of that stuff doesn't shock me too much. The Bill Belichick era of New England doesn't strike me as we're going to have all the newest technology and everything's going to be awesome and we're going to have the most high-tech stuff and all these gravity chambers and steam pods and all this. It doesn't strike me as it. I remember firmly when Bill Belichick would throw the iPads that the league mandated and start writing things down on paper because he just couldn't take the technology, right? Or he'd just be upset about something. So this does not strike me as an organization that will have kept up with technology, kept up with the times in terms of that. Just doesn't. And, I don't know if it's necessarily out of malicious intent. I don't think I have nearly enough information to say that it's not like the players were begging for things and the Patriots were like, no, screw you, we hate you and your body, and you're going to suffer, and that's going to be that. No, I doubt it. I assume that it's just one of those ignorance is bliss type deals, and now that the knowledge has come to light and Robert Kraft has seen these, he seems to be taking these things personally. He seems to be saying, wow, I did not realize that we were looked at that poorly. That is not a reflection of how I am as an owner. It's not a reflection of where we want to be as an organization. We're going to fix it. And I think at a certain point, that's all you can do, right? You can't fix what's happened in the past. You can't change things and go back in time. But what you can do, and you can control what happens when you move forward. And I think Robert Kraft is trying to do that. And again, I commend him for that because, he could be grouchy old man, generic grouchy old man 7 right now and just be like, well, I'm no better. I've won 6 Super Bowls. I know what the heck I'm doing. These players are nothing but babies. He could be doing that, but he's not doing that. He's saying, we're going to fix it. We're going to definitely take care of the daycare thing, which I think, honestly, is probably the most important thing. The children and the families of these players are so, so important. I don't know if I necessarily say more important than the health of the players. I think they're probably on equal footing. But certainly, these guys, most of these guys are doing this not just because they love the game of football, but because they are trying to provide for those exact people. They're trying to provide for their families. So I think anything that the organization can do to help that is a great step forward. So that seems to be the kind of first priority. And I kind of got confused. Part of it kind of seemed like it was in the works already, and then part of it was like, no, we're going to implement this. I'm not really sure which one it is. I think it's already in the works. Some sort of $50 million facility that's going to have all the newest up-to-date stuff, which is great. Now, the problem is I don't know how long it's going to take to build, especially if I'm incorrect in assuming that it's already underway. I do not know if it's underway or not. But let's assume that it's already been underway. It still may be a few years away. That means that you're not wasting, but you're kind of having a few years here where you're still going to be ranked 29th or 28th or 27th, maybe if you improve slightly, without those facilities. So that's tough, a tough pill to swallow for a Patriots organization that has been so successful over the last 20 plus years. You like to think that the Patriots organization is a symbol of excellence in the NFL, and at least in terms of the things that were talked about in this NFLPA survey and report, it does not seem to be the case, not even close at this point. And so that's a little heartbreaking to see, but glad to see that Robert Kraft is kind of taking initiative and, taking responsibility and saying that it is his fault and that he's going to work to fix it. Now, that could just be him blowing smoke. That's always a possibility, but Robert Kraft has never really struck me as somebody that's going to just blow smoke, and that's not going to kind of follow through on what he talked about. And another interesting thing that he talked about is kind of what I alluded to earlier and how this affects free agency and how this has affected their ability to pitch to players to come to New England. And it seemed, he didn't name him by names, but given the reports, it seems very likely that it was Calvin Ridley. He brought in Calvin Ridley, and it seems that they put a very competitive offer down financially, and Robert Kraft claims that he did not go to Jacksonville just because of the money, because his money was as good, if not better, than what they gave. But he made clear, whoever this wide receiver was, again, he didn't name it, but it seems like it's Calvin Ridley, that his wife or girlfriend wanted to be in the South, and the taxes were too high. And so he wanted to not pay as many taxes, which is why he was thinking of either staying in Tennessee, where there's no state income tax, or going to Florida, where there is also no state income tax, whereas Massachusetts, there is a pretty significant state income tax. So, I guess that's nice to know that they put forth a great effort, and at a certain point, there's not much you can do. And I don't know if I would have loved us paying $25 million a year for Calvin Ridley. I think it would have been a massive overpay, and I would not have particularly liked that at all. So I'm almost glad that it didn't happen, but I can at least respect the hustle. I can at least respect the effort to bring in a guy like that to kind of bolster the offensive weaponry that we have around. And hopefully they're going to be pivoting to a T. Higgins or drafting a wide receiver pretty high in the draft. I've seen a bunch of reports. Will we stick at 3? Will we trade back? I'm personally hoping for a 3-team deal. I'm personally hoping that the Vikings give up 2 first-round picks, their 11th pick and a 23rd pick, and then also a pick in 2025 to kind of move up to 3, and then the Patriots also move back from 3 to 5, where they trade from the Chargers. And so how that would look is it would go, the Vikings trade the 11th and the 23rd pick to the Chargers to move up to 5. So now the Chargers have 11 and 23, and then the Vikings have 5. Then they trade 5 and a first-round pick next year to move up to 3. So the Patriots have 5 and a first-round pick next year. The Chargers now have 11 and 23, and the Vikings obviously can take their guy, which will probably be Jalen Daniels, at 3. The Patriots can then, I presume, take either Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I'm blanking on his last name. The big tackle from Notre Dame, Joe something. I'm completely blanking. You guys will know who I'm talking about. You could take him at 5, and you could trade that other first-round pick that you just got to the Bengals, along with some other draft capital, for T. Higgins. You can re-sign him, and there's your number 1 wide receiver. And then in the second round, with your 34th or 35th pick, whatever it is, you could take Michael Penix Jr. Or J.J. McCarthy if he's still there. I doubt he would still be there at that point. But you could take that guy, or you could roll into the season with just Jacoby Brissett, and then draft a guy later on. You could just have Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi if you feel like you need to, and take a quarterback early in the draft next year. So whatever it is, you can figure it out. I'm hoping that you take a quarterback this year. I still think that would make the most sense, but we'll see what happens. But that would be kind of my ideal scenario if we were to trade down. I think my absolute ideal scenario would be for us to stick at 3, take Jalen Daniels or Drake May, and then obviously with the 34th pick, I think it's the 34th pick or 35th pick, whatever it is, we end up taking a wide receiver at that point, because this is a very deep and loaded wide receiver class. I would be very upset if the Patriots did not draft at least 2 wide receivers from round 1 to round 4. But we have a pick in every round, so obviously that leaves 2 picks for not wide receiver and 2 picks for wide receiver. So I would love if every single one of those picks was on offense. Maybe you go a quarterback, a wide receiver, a tackle, a wide receiver. I would love that very much. I think that's a really good way to kind of move forward with things, and you just really need some weapons. So that would be kind of my ideal scenario. But if we did trade down, I would love to trade with what I just said. So again, 11 and 23 go to the Chargers. The Vikings then have the 5th pick, and then they trade the 5th pick and then their 2025 first-round pick to the Patriots to move up from 5 to 3. So that means the Patriots have the 5th pick and a first-rounder next year. The Vikings get 3, and then the Chargers take 11 and 23, and then they can take a wide receiver and a good defensive player. You'll get 2 first-round picks, and they have an abundance of picks this year. I think they have 2 6th-round picks, 2 7th-round picks, 2 4th-round picks. Like, they have a lot of picks this year. the Chargers. I might have the rounds mixed up, excuse me. But we'll see what happens. So all that being said, hopefully the Patriots will continue to improve. Again, I'm a little indifferent about where free agency is right now for the Patriots. Glad that we re-signed guys, but I don't think we've done enough, and we still have somewhere around $75 to $80 million in cap space. I feel like, it's just a lot. Maybe not quite that much. Probably more like 50 or 60. So we still have a lot. And we can still restructure contracts if we need to. We'll see what happens. But anyways, that's going to do it for the Patriots portion of the podcast. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys end up reading that report for the NFLPA, and what did you guys think about it? Has anybody watched that documentary that's come out? Let me know if I got anything wrong about that. Again, I haven't seen it yet. I'm just kind of going off the reports on it. So let me know what you guys thought of it, and if it was quite as negative as the media was portraying. Let me know. But I'm pretty curious to see. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the MLB. I obviously mentioned I'm going to do kind of bookend things with the Boston stuff. So now we're going to go on to who I think is going to really kind of insert themselves amongst the award winners this year in both leagues. So we are going to start in the National League. I'm actually going to do it a little differently this year than I did last year. I did award predictions last year and I did division predictions, but Dan and I already did that. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. We already talked about the division winners, and we already talked about postseason, World Series, all that good stuff. So now I'm going to talk about award winners, who I think is going to win Cy Young, who I think is going to win Rookie of the Year, and who I think is going to win MVP in both leagues. And we're going to start with the National League, and we're going to go all the way down. So who's going to win Rookie of the Year? I believe that regardless of his first start, I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to win Rookie of the Year in the National League. It's pretty hard-pressed to find another rookie that's going to really compete with him. I don't really sense anybody else kind of taking that throne from him unless he gets very seriously injured or he just absolutely stinks. He's paid $300-some million as a rookie. This is somebody that has super high expectations. I don't anticipate anybody taking that throne from him. I don't even think there's somebody that could be thrown out there that's going to be any different at this point, that's going to get more votes than him if he pitches the way he is billed to be pitched. Now, obviously, again, he struggled very, very early on, but it was his first, foray, I guess is the word, into the major leagues. I'm not taking too much stock into anybody's performance. Obviously, I don't anticipate everybody giving up 1 billion runs like they did in that second game in South Korea. So we'll see what happens. But I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the clear favorite, and I feel silly picking anybody else to win National League Rookie of the Year this year. Cy Young. This was a little bit harder of an award to pick. I think that, and this is really the hardest award to pick on either side, because quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of really great pitching on either side this year. I feel like a lot of the top guys are injured to start the year and probably will not be, eligible for Cy Young candidacy this year. Obviously, a bunch of the guys that were Cy Young candidates last year are all injured. Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, all these guys are injured for at least the start of the year. I suppose Verlander, it seems like he's going to come back, within a week or two after the season starts, so he'll still be eligible to win Cy Young if he performs great this year. But we'll talk about that portion of the AL. But back to the NL, I just think that there's not a whole lot of really high quality ace level pitchers floating around in the NL. You obviously have guys like Spencer Strider. You have your Zach Wheelers. Sandy Alcantara is always a favorite, but he's injured for the entirety of the year. It seems like obviously you have Ohtani, but he's not pitching this year. So a lot of the top guys are out this year. And so who do I think is going to win Cy Young? I am going with Spencer Strider of the Atlanta Braves. I think he's going to win Cy Young this year. Certainly, I could see it go to his teammate Max Fried. I could certainly see it go to Zach Wheeler, or even his teammate Aaron Nola. So I could certainly see a few guys getting it. Even somebody, maybe like oh my goodness. Oh wow, I'm blanking on his name. Giants. Oh no. Oh man. I just keep thinking Logan Ryan, the DB for the Patriots. What that you guys are screaming at me right now, and I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. It's gone. Logan Webb. Logan Webb. Goodness gracious me. I don't know what happened to me. My brain just completely went dead on that, so I apologize. But Logan Webb, I could certainly see somebody like him sneaking in and stealing that away, especially with the Giants kind of being somewhat improved this year. I don't really see a whole lot of other supreme candidates that I would look at as favorites right now. Obviously, you've got guys like like a Hunter Green, that if he has a huge breakout year this year with the Reds, I could see him being in contention just based on his pure stuff. But I'm going to go with Spencer Strider. I think he's the surest thing to win the Cy Young Award this year. He's obviously stayed relatively healthy throughout his career, so we're gonna knock on wood over here that he continues to stay healthy. He has a huge upside in terms of strikeouts. He doesn't walk a whole lot of guys, and he goes very, very deep in games the majority of the time. And so he's the guy that kind of is the total package right now in the league. So I'm going to go with Spencer Strider to win the National League Cy Young Award. MVP. I think Shohei Ohtani is the favorite to win MVP every single year that he is healthy, fully healthy. And I can certainly see him winning the MVP this year, even if he's just a designated hitter. I think that there's plenty of guys in the National League that are that are in contention, but at the same time, I don't see anybody knocking Ronald Acuna Jr. off of his throne just yet. I think he's going to win back-to-back MVPs this year. He's a guy that put it all together last year. He stole 1 million bases and hit 1 million home runs. It just was an unbelievable season, and I don't see him slowing down at all this year. I don't think pitchers are going to quote-unquote figure him out, and I also don't anticipate a whole lot of hitters doing better than he's going to this year. The only other guy that I can see kind of sneaking in there and winning MVP is like a Mookie Betts. If he has a fantastic year and he's playing multiple positions and he's a phenomenal defender at all of those positions, second base, shortstop, center field, right field, left field, whatever other positions he decides to play today, I could see him sneaking in and winning it. I could also see a pitcher getting it as well. Like a Spencer Strider, like a Zach Wheeler, whoever wins a Cy Young, I could also see them sneaking in for MVP. I could also see Matt Olson winning MVP. I could also see Freddie Freeman winning MVP. These wouldn't be shocks to me, but if I have to pick one, I'm picking Ronald Acuna Jr. To repeat as MVP in the National League this year as well. Hey, I picked that right last year. I might as well go for it again. You know what I mean? Now, the American League. This one is a little bit tougher for me. There's not a whole lot of guys, rookies that are standing out to me that are gonna come to fruition. Obviously, last year we had certain guys kind of get called up, and I don't necessarily know who necessarily has rookie status and who doesn't have rookie status. Like, does Zach Geloff have rookie status? I am not sure. Does Gunnar Henderson have rookie status? I'm really not sure. There are just a bunch of different guys that I'm really, really not sure who is going to kind of win Rookie of the Year. My pick at the beginning of last year for this year probably would have been Jason Dominguez, the outfielder for the Yankees. I think he was really projected to be the center fielder for them this year. Obviously, he's now torn his UCL, and so I'm not sure he's going to really be playing this year. He's probably out at this point. And so I will say, out of everybody, out of all the awards, this was easily the most difficult for me to pick. Because quite frankly, there's just not a whole lot of guys that I can think of that I think are going to, quote unquote, take the league by storm. And so I think that the guy that's coming to mind for me that's going to win Rookie of the Year is Wyatt Langford. Obviously outfielder from the Rangers. I think that he is going to snag one of those starting outfield spots, and he is a guy that really strikes me as somebody that can do some damage in the outfield, play great defense. Obviously, he's a good hitter. We know about his base running, so he's a guy that I think is really young and exciting. Out of everybody that I'm picturing right now, there's some real good studs that are coming out of the National League, like your Jackson Chorico, or however you pronounce it, Chorico, whatever it is. Guys like that that are coming out of the National League, and then obviously you got some good pitchers as well. but I think Yamamoto's got that locked up. And in the American League, it's more wide open. I am taking Wyatt Langford to win Rookie of the Year. Cy Young, kind of similar issues to the National League. Not a whole lot of top-end talent right now in the American League or in the MLB right now for pitching. And so my pick is going to be a newcomer to his team this year, and that is going to be Corbin Burnes, the new ace of the Baltimore Orioles. I think he is going to be the guy that wins Cy Young this year, and man, do I hope he stays healthy, because they are going to need him badly. They do not have a whole lot of depth in their rotation at this point. Obviously, you lost Kyle Gibson in free agency. You got Corbin Burnes. That was your replacement. You're obviously calling up Grayson Rodriguez. He's going to be a big part of your future in that rotation. Outside of that, you have a John Means, who was really your ace a couple of years ago, who's going to be returning soon from injury. Who knows what he's going to have, if he's going to be the same pitcher or if he's just going to be a serviceable number 4 or 5. We don't know. But let's just assume best of the best case scenario, he returns to mostly of his ace form, and he's just a really solid pitcher. He's a really good number 3 to have. Awesome. That's really all you have. I can't really think of anybody else in that rotation that stands out to me. So, yeah, I think you're really going to need him if you're Baltimore, and I think that Camden Yards is a much better ballpark for pitchers than it used to be, and so I think Corbin Burnes is going to walk away with Cy Young, if anything, just basically due to, process of elimination. There's not a whole lot of competition right now for Corbin Burnes. He's really the big ace in the AL right now, unless there's somebody that I'm completely and utterly just forgetting about, because literally everybody else is hurt. Scherzer's hurt. Verlander's hurt. Uvalde's hurt. DeGrom is hurt. Garrett Cole is hurt. McClanahan's hurt. All these guys are all hurt. And so, I think that Corbin Burnes is going to walk away with Cy Young this year, at least in my mind, for the American League. And then American League Most Valuable Player. Woof. This is another tough one, guys. I think, obviously, Shohei Ohtani was always the favorite in the American League, so honestly, it's been kind of an afterthought over the last handful of years. Who's going to win MVP? Who's the guy that's going to kind of take the reins now that Shohei is in the National League? Who is the guy that is going to take the reins from Ohtani in the American League and win Most Valuable Player? Judge is a candidate. Certainly is. He won MVP a couple of years ago. He had 1 billion home runs, and he certainly deserved it. I think that, even a sneaky pick, I know I just said I wasn't going to talk about the Red Sox, but Rafael Devers, I think, is always a sneaky pick. If the guy can hit 40 home runs, he's going to have a case. I think that the outfield duo, or at least the outfield/DH duo, in Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez out in Houston, I think both those guys have a legitimate shot to win MVP this year if they were to have enormous years. Now, Yordan a little less so, unfortunately, just because he is most of the time just a designated hitter. And it's kind of hard to win MVP if you're just a designated hitter. Kyle Tucker, at the very least, plays great defense. So if he has a 40 home run, 110 RBI campaign, he's going to put himself out there. But there's one man that I think is going to walk away with the American League Most Valuable Player Award. And it will hurt my heart more than any other. And that will be Mr. Juan Soto. Why is Juan Soto my pick? Because you know what? I think that Juan Soto is going to not only have a career year this year, I think he is going to absolutely blow record books for new signing for the Yankees out of the water. I think whatever record a quote-unquote new free agent signing for the Yankees has ever had, he's going to blow him out of the water. I think that he's going to hit 40 to 45 home runs this year. I think he's going to have 115 to 120 RBIs this year. I think he's going to hit about 310 to 320. I think he's going to have a 400 to 420 on base percentage. I think he is going to absolutely dominate with his home base being Yankee Stadium, with that shallow right field being a huge boon for him. Why do I think that? Because this is a contract year for Juan Soto, and he has already said, I'm not re-signing. And so what he is doing is he is looking at the lay of the land. He's looking at the landscape of his situation. He's thinking, I am in the most lefty hitter friendly ballpark in the American League, or even in the MLB. It is super, super friendly to right-handed hitters. I am going to have media attention all the time because I am playing for the New York Yankees. Everybody is going to have their eyes on me all year long to see what I'm going to do. And he's going to be able to showcase all of his potential, all of his skill set for the Yankees. And then at the end of the year, he can either re-sign there and be a Yankee legend for the next 10 years, which I would be very sad if that happened, or he can get an absolute bag somewhere else for the Phillies, for the Mets, for the Red Sox, for the Dodgers, whoever it is. They could pay him $400, $450, $500 million, and Juan Soto bet on himself, and it would have paid off huge. So, my pick for American League MVP, as much as it hurts to hear a Yankees name come out of my mouth, Juan Soto will be the American League Most Valuable Player Award. And I did forget to mention this earlier. Cy Young, right? I said Corbin Burns was going to run away with it, and I did forget somebody. Sneaky pick or picks to win the Cy Young this year. The two aces out in Seattle. George Kirby and Logan Gilbert. If I had to pick one, I would pick Logan Gilbert. I think he's got a little bit more upside. I think he's got a little bit higher strikeout upside. And I think that if he plays his cards right and he's dialed in, I think he could have himself a stellar year out in Seattle. And he just might sneak a Cy Young. But that's kind of an outsider's pick. I'm still sticking with Corbin Burns. So, let's review. Rookie of the Year in the National League, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, pitcher for the Dodgers. Pretty reasonable there. Cy Young Award winner for the National League is Spencer Strider, and MVP is Ronald Acuna. So, two Braves are going to take home those awards. And in the American League, Rookie of the Year is Wyatt Langford, outfielder from the Texas Rangers. Then Cy Young was Corbin Burns with an outside shot for Logan Gilbert or George Kirby, but we're going to stick with Corbin Burns. And then MVP is Juan Soto in the American League. Let me know what you guys think of those predictions. How wrong I'm going to be. It's going to be pretty hilarious how wrong I am, but we're going to go with it anyway, and we're going to have fun with it. If somehow I'm correct with all of these, somebody send me like $5. That'd be cool. I think I've earned it at that point if I got them all right. But regardless, let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about today is a little bit more painful for me than the rest of the stuff we've talked about. And that is the Boston Celtics and the maddening pattern that is continuing to form as it has over the last 3 to 4 years of the Celtics blowing huge leads to teams that they should not be blowing leads to. Last night, for reference, as of time of recording, the Boston Celtics had a 30-point lead against the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta with about 4 minutes left in the second quarter. And by the end of the third quarter, the game was all knotted up, and the Atlanta Hawks had come all the way back, and eventually the Hawks would pull out a 2-point victory against the Celtics in Atlanta. Now, part of me sits there and thinks, well, Drew Holiday and Derek White were out, so they didn't have their two best defensive guards. But the Hawks didn't have Trae Young, and he's like 96% of their team. So, quite frankly, that doesn't really stack up for me. The other part of me wants to rip all my hair out and sell it on eBay. I'm going to hopefully not be doing that part, but that's what it makes me want to do. This is not new for the Celtics. This is not something that it just happened one time and it's like, oh man, we just had a bad night. No, this has happened regularly. It happened a couple of weeks ago against Cleveland. It's happened years and years ago, or years in the past, obviously, and it's built all the way up until now. It continues to happen where we have big leads, we choke them away over and over and over again, and it's driving me nuts. And I know what the reason is. The reason is because the Celtics make the baffling decision in the fourth quarter to just completely halt their offense, and nobody moves, nobody cuts off ball, they don't run any plays, they go to complete iso ball, and it drives everybody up a wall. Brian Windhorst he talked about this morning. on one of his programs. I can't remember which program it was. But in the first and second quarters, so in the first half of games, the Boston Celtics are top 10 in the NBA in pace. And, interestingly enough, they are also the most efficient and highest scoring team in the first half in the NBA. So they're top 10 in pace, and they are the most efficient scoring team in the NBA in the first half. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics are second to last in pace. Second to last in pace. Now, sometimes the Celtics, they bring in all their backups and stuff, and so they end up blowing some, a little bit of leads with all their backups in, but that happens. That's fine. But when you're blowing leads with all your starters out there, and yet in the fourth quarter, when it's tied for or a close game pretty much for the entire time, and your last possession is everybody standing around and watching Jaylen Brown dribble himself to death and then take a contested fadeaway three instead of running some kind of actual play, that's not going to cut it down the stretch. So, am I panicking over one game? No. Of course not. Why would I panic over one regular season game? What I am panicking about is the fact that this is not a new pattern. The Celtics have shown this year that no lead that they have is safe because they can blow a 30-point lead in one quarter. They can blow a 20-point lead in a matter of 3 minutes against the Cavaliers a couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned earlier. And they have struggled against the top teams in the West and sometimes against the top teams in the East. So what does that mean? That means that come playoff time, I will never have 1 second of hope as a Celtics fan. Never once. Because you've shown that you have a hard time beating good teams. And even when you do start beating good teams, you can blow a 30-point lead in 0.5 seconds. Or a 20-point lead in 0.1 seconds. Even with all that star talent on the offensive end, and even with all those great defenders on the defensive end, you somehow can still figure out a way to blow gigantic leads in the blink of an eye. Over and over and over again. And guess what? Against the top teams in the East and the top teams in the West, all it takes is that happening once and you lose a series. Because on the road, the Celtics, yes, sure, they have the best record in the NBA on the road. That's great, but they also have the best record in the NBA, period, by a mile. So that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. What means a whole lot to me is that down the stretch in road games, you collapse. Or you struggle to even perform well on the road at all. So guess what? You lose one game at home against the Bucks or against the Nuggets, I'm not going to have a whole lot of hope of winning that series. Because the saving grace is that you have to beat us at home, which is not easy. Only 3 teams have done it this year. And 2 of them were back-to-back nights. And one of them was the Denver Nuggets, and it was by 2 points. So, beating us at home is no easy task. Beating us on the road, it's a lot easier task. So if you could figure out a way to beat the Celtics at home, then you know on the road, hey, we can beat them no matter how much we get down. They just blew a 30-point lead to the Hawks, and the Hawks didn't even have Trae Young. They didn't have their best player, the guy that's going to shoot them out of a hole at any point. They didn't even have that guy. It was all DeAndre Hunter, who the entire crux of his career has been he's not a good offensive player. And it was Bruno Fernando scoring 15 points off the bench when he was a guy that didn't even make the Celtics roster 2 years ago. Or it's Dean Wade, who's averaging 11 minutes a night for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he's dropping 21 straight points in the fourth quarter. There's no logic or rhyme or reason to this. There isn't a logical thing that can explain it away. Down the stretch of games, a team that has more talent than arguably any other team in the NBA right now completely forgets how to play basketball at times. Completely forgets who they are, completely forgets that they are the best team in the NBA, and goes from one of the top 10 fastest-paced teams on offense to the second worst, and it is killing them. It may not be actively killing them right this second, but in the playoffs, it's going to kill them if they don't fix it. I truly, truly hope, for the sake of the franchise and for the sake of the fan base, that the amazing job that Brad Stevens and company have done putting an unbelievable roster together is not wasted, because down the stretch in fourth quarters, the pace slows to a crawl. Everyone just stands around and does nothing. Brick after brick after brick. Ding after ding after ding on the other end. And the Celtics have to go home against the Bucks or against the Magic or against the Hawks or against the Heat or against the Knicks or against whomever. And the end says, the Celtics blow 3 25-point leads in the same series to lose and go home with nothing. Guess we got to break up the Jays. Guess we got to trade Kristaps Porzingis because the experiment didn't work. Guess we got to trade Derek White and Drew Holiday because the experiment didn't work. Guess we got to fire Joe Mazzulla because the experiment didn't work. That's the highlights you're going to get. Blow it up. It didn't work. You're done. The window's closed. Trade Jaylen Brown. Worst contract in history. 1 million turnovers. He sucks. He stinks. He's the worst. I hate my life. I don't want that as a Celtics fan, okay? I am okay if we go to the NBA Finals and we face Denver and they are a better team than we are. Will I be hurt? Will I be hurt? That's not it. Will I be hurt? Absolutely. Will I be crushed? Absolutely. But if the Denver Nuggets are a better team than we are and they beat us in the finals at a certain level as a competitor, I can be okay with that. I can learn to be okay with that. But if we face Denver in the finals and we have 3 25-point leads and we blow them all, or God forbid, if we play the Heat in the first round and they do what they did to the Milwaukee Bucks to us this year, I'm not going to be okay. The fan base is not going to be okay. We are on pace as a team to win 65-plus games, which only a handful of teams in the history of the league have done. This is, right now, the Celtics are on pace to have the most efficient offense ever if the season ended today. Ever. As in the history of basketball. First round exit, second round exit, Eastern Conference Finals exit, not acceptable. NBA Finals loss to a better Denver Nuggets team? Perhaps. NBA Finals loss to a better team in general, whoever that may be. They just outplay us. They just out-defense us, out-hustle us, outwork us. We shoot 40% from 3 and we still can't beat them because they're just shooting the lights out? Fine. Okay, I can get behind that. But I cannot tolerate this kind of performance anymore from a Celtics team that is so absurdly talented that it's driving me nuts that they don't realize how talented they are. Or that they realize exactly how talented they are and it constantly goes to their head and they think that they could just beat anybody on any given night no matter what happens. I don't know how many times Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and company have to fail in these circumstances for them to finally get the message. For them to finally understand that they can't perform down the stretch of games like this. I understand it's just one regular season game, but that's not the point. The point is that this has happened for 4, 5, 6, however many years. It goes back to 2018 when the Celtics were 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals and they scored 78 points on their home floor. They choked. But you know, what did everybody say? Oh, their 2 best players were out and they're so young. They're going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. And they lost to LeBron. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And I believed it. But this is now 6 years later. Those young Bucks that didn't know what they were doing are the, 3rd or 4th best player in the NBA and the 15th best player in the NBA now? They're first and second team All-NBA players. They're both All-Stars. They've got another guy who is going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year this year in Drew Holiday, and he is it pretty much every year. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. A guy in Derek White who should have been an All-Star this year as far as I'm concerned and might win Most Improved Player if Tyrese Maxey wasn't a person. And then Kristaps Porzingis is an absolute unicorn and opens up their offense and allows Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to drive without a whole lot more resistance. Why in the world is it still happening 6 years later? All the playoff experience, you'd think you'd figure it out at some point. It doesn't seem like the Celtics have figured it out yet. And until they do, they'll never win a championship. And if they don't win a championship with this group, we're not winning a championship with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. We're just not. We're going to have to accept that. We're going to have to accept that we had the most talented, unsuccessful team in NBA history. We're just going to have to accept that. And that's not a pill that I'm willing to swallow. So for goodness sakes, figure it out. I've already said that if we lose to a better team in the finals, I will be okay with that as a fan. I'm sure there are some fans that won't be. I can't control those fans. I can only control me. But me personally, if we lose to the Heat again, if we lose to the Magic, if we lose to Milwaukee, if we lose to anybody in the Eastern Conference, I'm not going to be okay. Because we are better than all those teams. And I think we're better than Denver. We haven't proven it, but I think on paper we are more talented than the Denver Nuggets. They have the better player in Nikola Jokic. I'm not stupid enough to think that he's not the best player on the floor. But we have, as far as I'm concerned, the second, third, fourth, and fifth best player on the floor. Then I'll put Jamal Murray ahead of Drew Holiday, and then it'll be Drew Holiday. Fight me on that. I don't care. You want to put Jamal Murray ahead of Derek White? Okay, fine. So we have the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth best player on the floor. We have 4 of the top 6 players on the floor. And we have 5 of the top 7. Because I'd put Drew Holiday ahead of Michael Porter or any of those, or Aaron Gordon or any of those other guys out there. And then obviously after Drew Holiday, I'd probably put Michael Porter, I'd probably put Aaron Gordon, and I'd put Al Horford. I think we have the more talented rosters. I really truly do. But right now, all I'm worried about is that I have no faith in us winning a playoff series if we continue to play like this. Because there is not a single team in the NBA that fears us. Because they know, I don't care if I'm down 50. As long as I have a quarter left to play, we're probably going to win this game. And that is sad. That you can go up 50, or you can go up 25, or you can go up 30, and a team still goes, oh yeah, we're definitely still going to 100% beat them. I have full confidence, because they stink. How can you be being whooped by 30 and think, oh no, they stink, we're going to beat them? But teams apparently do it, because it happens all the time. Figure it out. Or your lives will be ruined. Not by me, but your whole entire perspective of everything is going to be completely changed. The team might be completely blown out. And I think if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown sit back and look at the team that they have this year and they don't win anything with it, they're going to have to take no choice and be like, this is our fault. We did this. We are the reasons why this is happening. And maybe that's what it's going to take to have them figure it out. But I hope it's not. I hope they figure it out this year, because if they don't, things are going to be very, 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 very bad in Boston. Very, very bad in Boston. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the rant. I'm pretty upset right now. But it is what it is. So, again, thank you guys so very much. I appreciate you tuning into the podcast. Again, if you haven't, subscribe, like the video, share, especially if you're still here, man. Thank goodness you're still here. I love you guys so much. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.